Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Mrs. Hakande S.A. by the name. I want to present SS2 Economics Note Week 2, and the topic is the theory of consumer behavior. Who is a consumer? A consumer is an individual or organization that bought a particular product for personal use. They bought it for personal use, and then the theory of consumer behavior simply means the way in which the consumer choose how to spend their income so that they can attain the highest utility. The ways by which the consumer choose how to spend their income so that they can attain highest utility. What now is the meaning of utility? Utility is simply defined as the total amount of satisfaction a consumer derives from the consumption of a particular product at any particular point in time. The utility is measured in hypothetical units called utils, and marginal utility, as one of the types of utility, is the basis of demand analysis. Let's now look at the types of utility. There are 4 types of utility. They are form utility, place utility, possession utility, and time utility. By form utility is the kind of utility that results from physical changes that makes a product more available. The physical changes that makes a product more available is what we refer to as form utility. A good example of this is cocoa that is used to produce chocolate drinks, flour in making breads, and so on like that. Then place utility is created when goods are transported to the consumer at the appropriate time. This is the satisfaction people derive when they have goods at their doorstep. That is, this kind of utility has reduced the kind of stress they might have undergone in getting a particular product for their personal consumption. Then possession utility here is the type of utility which results when goods are bought. The type of utility that results when goods are bought by the consumers, and the ownership is passed to them without any encumbrance. That is, as soon as they pay for a certain particular product, it has automatically become theirs. So that is what we refer to as possession utility, because they will have the product in their custody. Then the last one is time utility. This one is the kind of utility that is enjoyed, that arrives when goods are stored until they are needed. Time utility here is added. It's added because utility is derived because goods are kept until they are needed by the consumers. This has saved the consumers the agony of scarcity that could have happened had then been there is no place to store the goods ahead of use. Concepts of total, marginal, and the average utility now. Total utility simply means the total amount of satisfaction a consumer derives from consuming a particular product. The total amount of satisfaction the consumer derives from consuming a particular product. The total satisfaction derived from commodity increases with the level of consumption. So the total utility formula therefore is equal to F into X1, X2 up till Xn, where there are n commodities, that is where there are numerous commodities. Then the formula, or we use the formula total utility, which is represented by TU, is equal to average utility multiplied by quantity consumed. Average utility multiplied by quantity consumed. Or we apply the first formula that says total utility equals f1 into f into bracket x1, x2 up till xn, or alternatively average utility multiplied by quantity consumed. The formula to be applied will depend on the nature of the question given to us or the information available in the question. Then marginal utility is the additional utility. The word marginal has to do with extra or additional. So is the additional utility derived from consumption of extra units of a product? Is the additional utility derived from the consumption of extra units of a product? Then it is change in the quantity consumed. It is change in the quantity consumed of a particular product. Then it is the major determinant of demand for a product, as I've said earlier, that is going to be explained later. So here it is now. So it is measured by the formula mu, which is marginal utility, is equal to change in total utility divided by change in quantity. I repeat, marginal utility is measured by using the formula change in total utility all over change in quantity consumed, or change in consumption. So where delta TU equals change in total utility and delta Q equals change in quantity. Average utility now. Average utility is the amount of satisfaction derived by a consumer per unit, like that of total utility that combines all the products together. Average utility here is treating each product separately as a unit. So the amount of satisfaction derived by a consumer per unit of a commodity consumed is what we refer to as average utility. It is arrived at by the total utility divided by the number of units. It is arrived at by dividing total utility by the number of units consumed of a commodity. Then the formula is average utility is equal to total utility, which is TU, divided by quantity consumed. Let's look at the relationship between average utility and marginal utility. Relationship between average utility and marginal utility. The unique relationship between the two, as in the total utility and marginal utility, can be easily summarized as follows. 1. The marginal utility begins to fall right after the first unit of the commodity has been consumed. Right after the first unit of the commodity has been consumed and continues to diminish until it reaches zero. It continues to diminish until it reaches zero and below. Number 2, at the point where the marginal utility reaches zero, that is, where the marginal utility curve cuts the x-axis, then total utility reaches its maximum. It is then that the total utility will reach its maximum point, and the maximum point there is called the saturation point. Number 3, then when the marginal utility becomes negative, then total utility begins to fall, and when the marginal unit curve descends below the x-axis, then the total utility curve begins to slope downwards begins to slope downward. We have example to be demonstrated on the board later. Let's look at the law of diminishing marginal utility. The law states that the satisfaction derived from consuming a successive units of a commodity will diminish or reduced as the total consumption of the commodity increases. I repeat, the law of diminishing marginal utility states that the satisfaction derived from consuming successive units, that is additional units, of a commodity will diminish or reduced as the total consumption of the commodity increases. Outside the example of a person that is coming from the hot sun that is really thirsty, he needs water to quench the thirst. By the time he or she is offered a sachet of pure water, it will be quickly rushed, then given another one, it will be taken bit by bit, then given another one, he might not be able to take it again. So as the consumption increases, automatically the level, the utility will diminish or reduced drastically. Then the concept of diminishing marginal utility holds that as additional utility of units of a commodity are consumed, the concept holds that as additional units of a commodity are consumed, less and less satisfaction is added to the utility, and later is added to the total utility, and later adds nothing to total utility. So further consumption may lead to negative value. There's also a graph here to demonstrate importance of diminishing marginal utility. The importance of diminishing marginal utility is that it is the basis of demand. The law of demand states that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded, and the lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded, all things being equal. So also the marginal utility, the consumption of the successive unit of a commodity will diminish or reduce as the total consumption of the commodity increases. Number 2, it explains why demand curves slope downwards. Diminishing marginal utility explain why demand curves slopes down. Demand curve slopes down in marginal utility as soon as the successive unit is consuming, as soon as the additional unit is consuming, so the utility will diminish or reduced drastically. Then it helps, number 3, it helps in bringing variety in production and consumption. That is, consumption of a single product every time may bring about boredom and diminishes the utility. So the producer have to change design and pattern of production of their product in order to entice or attract the buyers. The third law states that the third importance is that it helps in bring variety in production and consumption. That is, consumption of a single product every time may bring about boredom and diminishes the utility. This is why the producer have to change design and their pattern of a product to attract more buyers. And the next one is diminishing marginal utility helps to explain consumer equilibrium. Consumer equilibrium will be explained very soon now. It helps to explain consumer equilibrium, that is, where there is equality of the ratio of marginal utility of the individual commodities to their prices. Then the last one, it helps to get the most of our scarce resources. It helps to get most of our scarce resources. Let's look at the criticism of the law of diminishing marginal utility. The first one is indivisibility of a product. Indivisibility of a product. The theory assumes that all products are not divisible. That is, some products cannot be divided. This has been weakened by the fact that some products are indivisible, thereby cannot be consumed in small units. Some products are not divisible, thereby they cannot be consumed in small units. A good example of this is that of house. The satisfaction can only be derived when building house only when that particular house has been completed. If it is half completed, then the satisfaction is yet to be derived. Then immeasurability of utility. What this one implies is that utility cannot be easily measured in terms of cardinal numbers. Utility cannot be easily measured in terms of cardinal numbers, meaning that it's only the person that took the product that can say the actual or the amount of utility derived. It cannot be expressed as using a percentage or number that have derived like 50 units or whatever level of utility. No, it's not done that way. Then not all consumers are rational. Not all consumers, that's number 3. Not all consumers are rational. Some purchases goods based on impulse and habit. Impulse buying here is a kind of purchases or buying that is not planned for without thinking carefully. And this might lead to the waste of money. And habit, it has been in the blood that the person just like to buy things unnecessarily, whether it is useful or not useful for him or her. Then the last one is that some commodities negate the axiom that the more they consumed, the less the marginal utility. So this is not so with money. This is not so with money because the desire for money increases as we have more of it. The more some commodities are consumed, the more they are demand, because people can never be tired. People cannot be tired of having money. It's just a matter of olifatis that they will always want more when it comes to the issue of money. So far so good. This is what we have to treat as far as the theory of consumer behavior is concerned for the first period there. Inshallah, next class we'll talk about the concept of origin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.